Watch Wars.
Welcome to this edition of Watch Wars. There ain't no party like a Seiko party, because a Seiko party never stops. Very happy to present these two watches to you today. The Spork Showdown. Spork meaning spoon with fork, and a term lovingly applied to a watch that more or less doubles duty as a diver and pilot watch typically. And that name is usually rooted around dial legibility. Certainly functionality plays a part, but it's more or less dial configuration that would designate a watch as a spork, working for either divers or pilots. And if you're a pilot that needs a diver, you have bigger problems than choosing a watch. But have no fear, legendary pilot watchmaker Sinn has got you covered there with this model. All right, D, what do you got on deck? We've got the Seiko SRP043, the Seiko Spork. And an interesting watch. A lot of people get their start in Seiko with the SKX 007. I skipped that boat. I missed that boat, and I don't really know why. Even when I got into watches, I'd heard about it pretty quickly. Pretty right on. And I saw this watch in an episode, an old Urban Gentry episode, and then I was like, wow, that is the diver for me. In fact, I was probably trying to figure out which SKX to get when I saw this. And when I saw this one, I was like, oh no, that is the one for me to get. And in this corner, we've got the Sinn 657. Something of an odd duck for Sinn, because it lives right in the middle of their dive and, pilot watches, being spec'd as a dive watch, but more or less configured in a pilot configuration. Love that piece. I've been trying to hunt that for a while. There is another Sinn that's going to be brought up during this meeting, called the Sinn 857. It's the bigger brother to this one, and you wouldn't normally compare these two particular watches together, but they're the watches that I have. The 857 is a better match size-wise to this Seiko, but I don't have that, and even though the Seiko wears a little bit large on me, but as a dive watch I'm okay with it because you need to see that underwater. If I was ever to go diving, I'd probably take my Doxa GMT, but this one would be a close second to that to get the nomination. And comparatively with the Sinn, I'm trying to get better about wearing watches that fit me, and this is definitely the watch that fits me. Diving right in, sporking right in, around the table, the Seiko, the Hobby of Hours shirt, a bunch of sporks because it's funny, the Hobby of Hours mug, a bunch of super cool gear from countycom.com, including the watchmaker's 3-in-1 tool, the titanium scale knife, sharp edges, and of course the honeycomb embassy pen, tube vault, and grappling hook, always on deck. The Sinn right here, its bracelet right here. I couldn't find the bracelet for this. It's somewhere upstairs, and it's in a bag because I had to buy it separate. This didn't come on it. And both of these watches are on strap today, partly because I couldn't find the bracelet, but this is on an isoframe dive strap because the Seiko leans more towards a diver. This one is on a Sinn leather pilot style strap because this one leans a little more towards being a pilot watch. And of course, we got the Sinn Mission Timer book, been featured many times on the channel. We got a couple random Seiko diver mooks over here. You can get them on eBay all day long. And gosh, I can't read kanji. I probably should take a class. But the reference numbers and the pictures are in there, and that's really all you need to go on a hunt. Let's get some numbers put up onto the board as we do a little looky-loo, a little up in your business, and it is readily apparent about the size difference here. We've got 44 millimeters here, 41 here. Funny enough, the larger version of this is 43 millimeters, so still a little bit smaller than this one. But thankfully, 20 millimeter straps here, no UGG width. Thank you, Seiko. Equal water resistance, and we'll get to this in the movement section of the review, but this one's an automatic with winding. This is the Seiko Shake, which, if I'm being honest, is probably the least favorite thing in the watch world. It's worse than an UGG width. Having to shake the watch that has a rotor in it offends me to no end. It's so annoying. And but as I said, we'll cover that later in when we get to the movement section. All right, so criteria. I have recently upgraded the criteria list to be 25 items to help us discern which one is indeed the best of the best, which one is the watch war winner, with trying to keep my personal bias at bay as much as possible. And even though there are 25 criteria, some of the items could be a draw. So there's no guarantee that it'll be 25, but it'll total to one being the winner or the other. I have yet to really roll this methodology out, so I've never experienced a dead draw. If it comes down to a dead draw, then I'll make a clutch decision on that. And have no fear, there are 25 items. I'm not going to belabor it. I'm going to be cutting right through them pretty quickly. Bracelet links. You can trust me on this one. This is actually not the bracelet that came with this watch. I got this watch at a very good price because it was kind of beat up. I've cleaned that up more or less. And the bracelet was pretty thrashed. This is a bracelet off of my 256, but it fits it. And they've got screws in here, whereas the Seiko bracelet has got, it's either pressure fit pin or it's pin and collar. Either way, this one is winning the bracelet links. Both of the clasps are the same on these, so it's a draw. Both bezels are 60 click. The Sinn is bi-directional. I'm calling that a draw because this one is a dive bezel uni, and this one is double. So they've got the same insert. That is also neutral. Kind of a contentious one here. Hot take. This one's got sapphire crystal. This one's got hardlex. In this day and age, hardlex is just as good as sapphire at not scratching. And the truth is, if either of them gets scratched, there's no fixing either of them. You have to get it swapped. So we're calling that one a draw as well. Now the case on the Sinn, you're going to see some better finishing. So this gets the point for case finishing versus this one. Not really a slight. This is not a bad case finishing, but you can just tell the Sinn is finished to a higher degree of quality, and it's really not an accident. Typically, this Sinn is a far more expensive watch than what I paid, and wouldn't be in the same price range as the Seiko Spork. But we'll get to that when we get to value. The case back. Funny enough, this has got a more interesting case back because it's got the Hokusai wave on it. There's nothing on this case back, it's blank, but it's nickel free, which I learned about when I was dating someone who claimed to have a steel allergy as justification as to why she wanted a gold watch. She's no longer with the channel, but good piece of knowledge nonetheless. The crown on the Seiko is larger, but doesn't do anything because you can't wind it. And the crown on the Sinn, buttery smooth, has that proper winding feel to it. So that is also a draw. So that's 7 draws out of 9 just on the exterior front portion. Moving into diameter preference, that's going to get awarded to the Sinn, but not because of this model. It's because the larger model, which is more comparable to the Seiko, is 43 millimeter. So it's even smaller than the 44 millimeter on the Seiko. And the height is also going to the Sinn because even the 857 is thinner than the Seiko by a millimeter, 1.2 millimeters. Lug width, as we mentioned, both are 20 millimeters. That's a draw. Water resistance, both 200 meters, also a draw. Weight. I weighed the watch heads by themselves. This Sinn is lighter, but so is the 8572, so that is going to Sinn. So Sinn has more or less swept the exterior category, and then the rest were draws. Now, somewhat contradictory, once we move interiorly, the dial is going to go to the Seiko. Even though the Sinn is cleaner, not as much bric-a-brac in the middle, the Seiko is easier to read once we get outwards towards the minute track because they put their minute track on the rehaut, whereas the Sinn minute track is on the dial itself. So the dial is going to Seiko, point to Seiko, and rehaut to Seiko because the minute track is the rehaut. There's actually no use of the rehaut here. That's kind of cleaner, but when you're looking to see the minute graduations, you want to be able to see that kind of clean, and truth be told, I think this would be a little easier to read underwater. Loom, also going to Seiko. I'll insert a loom shot here, and as you can see, the Seiko just crushes in the loom category, and partly due because there's so much more of it. There's a ton more loom on this dial than on this one. Handset. I love this handset on Sinn personally, but functionally and somewhat in the same design language, the Seiko, those hands are larger and easier to see in its intended use. And even as a pilot, these hands would be easier to see. So Seiko is sweeping the interior category for us. Next up, movement. Easily the Sinn. Why? The Sinn has an anti-magnetic of 80,000 AMs. Wow. That's just Sinn doing what Sinn does, putting a bunch of extra stuff in there you didn't expect but you love. And you'll need that more as a pilot than a diver. But the movement here is the ETA 2824, tried and true, an awesome movement. And if for no other reason than you have to shake this one to get it to work, this one's more or less a slam dunk. Now, the power reserve point goes to Seiko. This Seiko movement is capable of 50 hours of power reserve. How you would get to it by shaking it, you'd probably have to spend half the day shaking it to get there. But there's only 38 hours on the Sinn. So to be fair, I have to award that point to the Seiko. The Seiko, you know what I mean. Complications. They both have a date window, but the point is going to Sinn because it's a justified date window, you see? That date is been oriented at the same angle as the other numbers on the dial, whereas the Seiko one, seriously Seiko? My gosh. Seiko, I'm in the middle of a video. The typical date window, it's on an angle, right? Which, I don't know why more people don't do it this way. I will say it is odd. It looks weird, but it probably only looks weird because I'm used to seeing it this way. So complications, going to the Sinn, service cost. This is an odd duck for me, and the reason is the ETA 2824, everyone can work on this movement, but even though you would think this is a simpler movement, because this Seiko business, I would probably have to send this only to Seiko USA and potentially have them drop ship it to Japan. So even if I have to send it to Seiko USA out in Jersey, it's going to be more expensive than having my watch guy look at the 2824. So point going to Sinn. Lastly, going to the market talk, the market value. There is always going to be a market and pricing component to my reviews, to the watches I discuss for several reasons. One, first of all, I'm a buyer. I'm a negotiator. As my day-to-day business, it's wired into me. And I encourage you to get whatever watch you want, new, used and bruised, whatever, at the best possible price to not only save you money, but the more money you save, the more watches you can buy, right? The reality is, you can get pretty much, let's leave Rolex off the table, you can get a discount on pretty much any watch that's out there, especially in the used sector. And it's always going to be a component for me. Watches are investments. Do not listen to the other YouTubers who say anything to the contrary, especially if they are dealers. They invest in watches every day. There are good investments and bad investments, short-term investments and long-term investments. You make your money when you buy the watch, not when you sell it. And you don't have to be a watch dealer, a watch flipper to understand buy low, sell high, get the best price you can because it's the smartest thing you can do for yourself. There you have it. This is going to be a very interesting breakdown. Now, price is going to go to the Seiko. And the funny thing about this model is I've owned that model 3 times. Not because I got rid of it. I bought it, realized it was a great value. I saw the trending going up, so I bought a couple more and then I flipped them for profit. I think I bought one for $400, flipped it for $800, bought another one for $600 or $700, flipped it for $1,200. These watches are always pretty much going to be going upwards in value because they don't make it anymore. It's a popular legacy model and it's unique. It's not a Seiko 5. The sheer fact that they don't make it anymore and it's got some cachet being called the Spork. Now, it's not always going to be at a great price, but every now and then I've seen them dip back to $600 and I've seen them as high as $1,800. They're all over the place. Buying low and selling it high later is an option for anyone. But the reason why it's able to compete against the Sinn in this video, not just because they're both sporks, but because currently they're cruising somewhere between 800 and 1200 generally. Now on the other hand, the Sinn, this is a pricier watch. I think when this came out it was around 2,500, mostly cruising at 1.5, 1.7-ish. This one had some issues. The condition of the bezel wasn't great, turned out just to be some gunk that needed wiped off, and the bracelet was a train wreck. So I got this under $1,000, just to be blunt. So these watches, right now, as these two examples sit, they're more or less the same price. On a more regular basis, you're going to get that Seiko for cheaper. Now, value. Considering the value of these two, what you pay for it, and what you're getting on the inside and outside, the Sinn gets the point. There's just more going on with the technology from Sinn, that nickel-free case back, and the anti-magnetic component in a 200-meter bi-directional bezel piece. It's a true spork if there ever was one, and it's giving you more value. Resale. I don't think I would get my money out of it, or maybe I'd take a minor hit on the Sinn. So the point's going to the Seiko. By and large, if you buy this Seiko for less than its peak, you can probably get back out of it at the peak value in a little bit of time. So that Seiko is going to have better resale value. What does that total up to? Drum roll, please. And with somewhat to no surprise, the Sinn is our winner. 9 points to 7 points. The other 9 points being a draw. So let's get both of these on wrist and see what they look like one by one. The winner goes first. Well, bam. There we go. On my 6.5-inch wrist. Wearing very well. Mowage. Wearing very well on a 6.5-inch wrist. I think that you could probably even wear this. Let's check that long lead. The long lead tells us everything. You know what? It's encroaching. So if you're less than 6.5 inches on your wrist, on your dominant wrist, you're probably going to want to maybe not do this. And as much as you can't try it on. The lug to lug, 46.7. So they're not large lugs, but they're not snub nose either. So it's got some wrist presence due to that lug to lug. But I have to say, I'm so glad I got it, and got it at a great price, because it is a fun watch. It is super legible, and it's just a watch I was chasing for a while, so glad I could get it at a good price. That's what we encourage here on the channel. Get the watch you want, the watch you love, buy what you like, absolutely, but buy it at the best possible price, always. That's the message. Ba-bam. And to correct what I said earlier, this is not an isofrane strap. This is an isofrane-like strap. It is made by Borealis. They make straps that look like isofrane, and they're far cheaper. I think these straps are around $40 or so, where isofranes can run $120, $140. The isofrane is absolutely worth it, but do yourself a favor and check on eBay, because sometimes they pop there pre-owned. And whenever it comes in, it should have that nice vanilla scent to it that the high quality silicone does. If you buy an isofrane strap used pre-owned and it doesn't have that really nice smell like a scented candle, you got a fake strap, because for years they carry that scent. So a little bit large marge. Thankfully not a heavy Chevy, at least not on strap. But it's not encroaching the ends of my wrist, so I can still pull it off. I would not wear this to the office. I certainly would not wear this to a wedding. This is a purpose-built watch. Obviously, you can wear it on Seiko Saturday, but if you're going diving, this is when this little bell of the ball will shine, and you're going to want to make sure you shake it all morning before you go on your dive, just to make sure that she is powered up for you. And let the Castro comedy ensue. Both watches side by side on my 6.5-inch wrist. I really should put that Seiko on the other wrist and do a side by side, because my right wrist is bigger. The least valuable X-Men mutation ever, larger right wrist. But this gives you a sense of side by side wrist presence. No, I would never wear these this way, but dang. Be curious to try that 857. The funny thing about the 857 Sinn, though, is it has the same style of date as the Seiko. It's angled, like it's not justified, so it's more or less a regular date window for that. This has been Watch Wolves Spork Edition, Seiko versus Sinn. And there you have it. If you have any questions about these watches or any of the watches you see in my videos or buying strategy, hit me up. You can find me on Instagram. You can slide in my DMs on Instagram, or you can write to me. If you're interested in some Hobby of Hours merch, we've got shirts, we've got mugs, we've got the book. Where is the watch book, D? Boom, watch book, 1000 Watch Designs, Volume 1, made by yours truly and Skynet. Got a bunch of fun things happening over at hobbyofhours.com. We've recently added Kepler's Laws, a series of articles from Ricardo about watch stuff. So check that out. Anytime he sends me a new one, I update it, usually every week or so. But there's also new videos getting dropped on the website only before they hit YouTube. So some added value to checking that out. There's also a bunch of art over there. But have no fear, there is no Garfunkel. Thank you for coming along on the ride. Hope that wherever you are in this wonderful, beautiful hobby of ours, that you are blessed, that you're enjoying watches, having a bit of fun, and saving money whenever you buy. If you ever want to hunt something, hit me up. You can find me at hobbyofhours.com. All right, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.